Welcome to another powerful conversation of Kingdom Wealth Cafe. Today I am your host, I'm Pastor Clovis, and with me we are having Dr. Derrick Teboh, somebody who is more acquainted with law and how NGOs can be built starting from scratch to the fundamental stages. So I am very much delighted to have you here, Doctor.
Thank you very much, Pastor.
Thank you so much. Today we are going to an important area that is extremely important for anyone who has a vision to build something bigger than themselves. And because sometimes we talk about having a vision, we talk about having a calling, we talk about entrepreneurship, we talk about creating impact. But there is another question we must ask, Doctor. How do you actually structure that vision so that it can survive, grow, and create lasting impact? A great idea without structure can collapse. A great organization without proper governance can be destroyed, and even a powerful vision needs to operate within the appropriate legal framework. This is why today's conversation is very important. Today we are talking about law, associations, NGOs, organizations, structures, financial sustainability, governance, accountability, impact, and legacy. And to help us navigate this conversation, we have with us Dr. Derrick Teboh, Secretary General of IIPC Cameroon. Doctor, you are very much welcome again. Please, can you introduce yourself to our viewers? They would like to know about what you do. They want to know much about you. Please, can you just briefly give us an introduction about yourself, where you currently work, and what you are building, sir?
Thank you very much, Pastor. Like you said, I am Teboh Derrick, a jurist and a legal consultant by profession. I also double as the Secretary General of the International Intellectual Property Commercialization Council, IIPCC Cameroon chapter. And since 2021, I've been accompanying NGOs, associations, and other social enterprises on ways to acquire sustainable finances for their activities. So that's the work I currently do, and that's what takes my time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you so much. I think that gives us a good foundation. I want us to make this conversation very practical. We are not here simply to discuss legal terminology. We want someone watching this who has a vision, an organization, a business idea, an NGO, an association, or a social impact project to finish this conversation saying, now I understand what I need to think about before I build. So let's begin from the foundation, which is vision and legal foundation. Where does a vision begin? Doctor, let's say there's a young person watching us right now. Maybe they believe they have a God-given vision. Maybe they want to establish an organization that will solve a problem in their community. They have the passion, they have the idea, but they don't understand the legal side. Where should such a person begin? What is the first legal step they should take when they want to transform a vision into an organization?
Okay, that's a very important question. The first step that the person should take is to carry out an assessment on himself. And looking at the Ohio Uniform Act, there are two things that I must specify. That's the age and the profession of the person. Regarding the age, the Ohio Uniform Act on General Commercial Law is very clear. Nobody can start a business or any organization without having the age of maturity. And looking at the Civil Code of Cameroon, the age of maturity is 21 years and exceptionally 18 years. So there are some things that you cannot do at the age of 18. So to be sure that you really want to start something, you must have the age of maturity, which is 21 years. That's the first aspect. And then the other aspect is on the issue of profession. There are some professions that immediately take you out of commercial space. For instance, if you're a civil servant, if you're a magistrate, if you're a military person, if you're a registered attorney, you are not supposed to start a business venture. So where the person has to start is the person has to carry out an assessment on himself regarding his age, regarding his profession. And there are other small legal hurdles, but this is the base. From here, if you fail this test, it means that you cannot go ahead.
My God. Thank you so much, Doctor, for that wonderful explanation. I believe that our viewers, they are learning so much from what you have just said. So we are going to move directly into the next question, Doctor, which is choosing the right structure. So now, Doctor, we hear people talk about companies, associations, NGOs, foundations, and sometimes these terms are used as though they mean the same thing. But from a legal perspective, there are different structures. Can you break this down for us? What is the difference between an association, an NGO, a foundation, and a company? How does someone determine which structure is appropriate for their vision?
Thank you very much, Pastor, for this question. I would like to take it like answering association and NGO in one phase, and then talking about foundation and companies in another phase.
Wow.
Association and NGO are just like small brother and big brother. All of them are non-for-profit organizations. So let's say somebody wants to do a community impact, somebody wants to do something that will impact the community, maybe through environment, maybe through fighting gender-based violence or something. He will have to register his activity as an association. This is done at the prefectural authority. So many associations that we have in Cameroon that call themselves NGO are not actually NGOs. They are actually associations. So if you carry out your activities as an association for 3 years, you can then gather your activity and take your report to MINAT for them to give you an NGO status. So that's why I said the NGO is like the big brother of an association. So you start as an association, and after 3 years, you then apply to have an NGO status. Now, coming to foundation. Foundation is so similar with associations and NGOs, but the foundation is an organization that is created with money. As a foundation can rather support the activities of an NGO or an association. So if somebody has money and wants to impact the community, he can create an association, and he can create a foundation, and then call associations or NGOs to apply for programs so that he can finance those programs for associations and NGOs to impact the society. And also, why NGOs and associations are regulated by the 1990 law, the foundation is regulated by the 1999 law. And the association is, the right to operate as an association is granted by the SDO. The right to operate as an NGO is granted by the Minister of Territorial Administration, but the right to operate as a foundation is granted by the decree of the President of the Republic. And therefore, for you to start a foundation, you must show proof of financial viability. In practice in Cameroon, for you to start a foundation, you should have at least 10 million because you are supposed to finance activities. And now a company is a business venture. And a company is totally different from an association, from an NGO, from a foundation, because while these three are for non-profit, a company is a profit-making organization. And the OHADA gives us a vast array of different types of companies that somebody can venture into. For the purpose of this discussion, we are just going to group it into two. OHADA talks about registered companies as well as unregistered companies. Registered companies are those companies that have a separate identity from their members. And we have two types: the public limited company, what in French we refer to as Société Anonyme, as well as the private limited company, what we refer to in French as Société à responsabilité limitée. These are companies where, if it is registered as such, the identity of the person or the persons registered the company, who registered the company, is distinguished from the company itself. On the other hand, we have unregistered companies where we can talk about. I'll give just one example that is so popular: the entreprise, the enterprise. So these are the kinds of companies that somebody can create. There are many other types of unregistered companies: the de facto company, joint ventures, and stuff like that. But I must sound here very clear that most people, I always advise people to go for a SAL, because a SAL can be operated with limited amount of money, and the advantage with a SAL is that a SAL can be inherited and it continues after the person dies. But an enterprise dies with the owner. And I think we are going to have time to talk about this in subsequent programs.
Wow, this is very wonderful, Doctor. Thank you so much for this wonderful explanation. I think this takes me to the third question, which is, can the wrong structure kill a vision? Can the wrong structure kill a vision? I think there is something I need to explain here, so that by the time you are explaining, our viewers will have a proper understanding of what we are talking about. Sometimes people have a genuinely powerful vision, Doctor, but they don't take time to understand the structure they are creating. Can a good vision fail because the founder established the wrong legal or organizational structure from the beginning? And if so, what are some of the consequences?
Oh, that's a very important issue. As I've just talked, I would like to answer this within the purview of a company. If you have a vision for something that should span between generations, maybe 4 generations or so, it is so advisable that your foundation should be on a SAL. Because a SAL, a private limited company, can continue even after the founder dies. Okay. But if you create an enterprise, it means that the enterprise is tied to you, and once you die, the enterprise dies as well, which means that the vision is going to die when the founder dies. So you get what I'm saying?
Yes,
so the right foundation is very important. It will depend on what the person wants to do. If the person has a vision that will span for a very short time, he may go for an enterprise. But if he has a vision that will go through generations, it is very advisable for him to opt for a SAL. And if he has much money, he can opt for a public limited company.
My God. This is too much. This is too much. Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you so much. This takes us to our fourth question, which are common mistakes that people make at the level of organization. So at Kingdom Wealth Academy, we want to educate young people before they make expensive mistakes. From your experience working around civil society organizations, what are some of the most common legal mistakes you see young entrepreneurs, NGOs founders, association leaders, and ministry leaders making when establishing an organization?
I would like to tag on one very strong mistake that these people make. And the mistake that I want to talk about is the issue of non-registration. I was discussing with a guy. He had a very good project, he has a very good idea, and was applying for a grant. And when I asked him to forward his declaration receipt, he told me that his organization is not yet registered. That's a terrible thing. In fact, I must be clear here: if your association, if your company, if your church is not registered, it means it does not exist. And if something does not exist, it means you cannot do anything. So he told me that his association has not been registered. I told you that, my brother, you're wasting your time. You need to register it. You need to have your organization registered. In the aspect of a church, it's only the president of the republic that authorizes a church to operate in Cameroon. And if the church does not have authorization from the president of the republic, it is an illegal church. And I may add here that in the case of ministry, you cannot be a bad citizen and a good Christian. So if you're a good Christian, you should equally be a good citizen. So therefore, for you to start a church, do the right thing. Either you operate within an authorized church, or make sure that your church is actually authorized by the president of the republic. There are many other mistakes that people make, but I want to anchor on this because there are many organizations in quotes that do not exist because they have not yet been registered. Some of these other mistakes, like they fail to file taxation documents. As an NGO, as an association, you're supposed to give accounting report to the administration every year. You're supposed to report your activities to the administration every year. So there are many of these mistakes that organizations and companies make.
Wow, this is very, very wonderful. I think that I myself am learning a lot from this discussion. Just to add before we move to our next question, I would like to briefly ask you about the issue of a ministry. Is ministry a profit-making organization?
With the practice that we have outside, you see many pastors owning private jets, you see many pastors owning cars, while the Christians suffer. I don't want to judge them from that perspective, but from the knowledge that I have, from the issue of law, I know a ministry is created to glorify God, and anything that is created to glorify God should not make profit. It should exist to give glory to God and not to give glory or financial benefits to the founders. So I stand by the fact that a ministry is not supposed to make profit. It's not a profit-making organization. This is also clear because looking at the General Tax Code of Cameroon, organizations that are exempt from taxation include churches, include ministries, NGOs, associations, foundations. So if it does not pay tax, it means it does not make profit.
Thank you so much, Doctor. I think this takes us to part 2. Let's go to the part 2 of this conversation, which we are going to talk about wealth and organizational sustainability. So The question 5 will be asking is, can a non-profit make money? Which is the question I just asked, but we'll go into the question properly.
Okay.
Now, doctor, let's enter the area of money. This is Kingdom Wave Academy after all. One phrase that confuses many people is non-profit. Some people hear non-profit and think it means an organization must never generate income. Is that actually the case? Can an NGO association legally generate income and still maintain its non-profit character? Let's hear from you, doctor.
Okay, that's a very important question. I have had to facilitate trainings on this particular aspect. The word non-profit is very clear that they don't make profits, but then they can generate income. In fact, NGOs, associations are supposed to make money from grants, they're supposed to make money from donation, but that's not the only place where they can have money. They can have paid consultancy services, they can sell some of their products, they can engage into rentals. So yeah, they can generate money. But then, we have to be very careful here. If an NGO generates money as such, maybe through rentals, maybe through paid consultancy services, they have entered into the commercial space. And here, taxation enters, taxation comes up. So, by doing this, I'm clearly informing you as well that NGOs, associations can actually pay tax if they engage into this kind of income generating activities. Because by generating income as such, like I said, they've entered into the commercial space. But then, when they generate income as such, they can maintain their character as non-profits by making sure that the income that has been so generated is used to fulfill the objectives of the NGO or the association. Because the law is quite clear that finances derived from non-profit activities or by finances derived by non-profit organizations are supposed to be used only for the objectives as were declared in front of the prefectural authorities. And even if the non-profit organization, even if the NGO or the association closes down, the money is not supposed to be given to members. The money is supposed to continue the objective in line with the objective. So if the NGO closes down and the NGO probably had the objective of empowering women, they're supposed to take this money and give it to a woman empowerment organization to continue the activities of the organization, not to be shared to members. So if they want to maintain their non-profit stance, they must make sure that the money generated as such fulfills the objective which was declared at the prefectural authority.
Wow, this is very important. Just to ask this question before we move further, I would like to find out from you, when the organization begin to make money, how will you know whether they have been making money or not? Can they still can some organizations still operate within those framework making money without the public actually identifying whether they are making money or not?
Actually, it's not the duty for the public to identify or to discover that the organization is making money. The taxation system in Cameroon is very unique. That is, once the NGO starts making money from those sources, it is the responsibility of the NGO, the association, to approach the prefectural authority, to approach the tax authority and declare the amount of money that they have made, such that the percentage is going to be deducted as tax. If the NGO fails to do this, it means that the NGO is not acting within the rule of law. So let's say, for instance, an NGO operates consultancy services and raises 5 million, and they say, wow, chance, let's just share this money, nobody will know. That's an illegal activity. And the respect of the law is not just because of the consequences. The respect of the law is a moral duty, it's a moral consciousness where every citizen, every association, every organization is called to respect the law for things to go on well.
Wow, thank you so much, doctor. Thank you so much. I think this makes the point very, very clear to me. And this takes me into our number 6 question, which is, how does an organization sustain itself? Now, because an organization needs resources, you need to pay staff, you need offices, you need transportation, you need to organize programs, you need technology and communication. So what are legitimate ways an organization can raise money or finance its resources and keep moving?
Okay, so it will depend, because in the field of law, the word organization is quite complex. You have profit-making organizations, you have non-profit-making organizations. But I'm sure you are talking
about a non-profit.
Non-profit-making organization. Yes, non-profit-making organizations like NGOs and associations can actually make a lot of money and pay their staff. For instance, if you write a grant, within that grant, the funder can clearly ask you, are you going to employ staff? How much are you going to pay the staff? How many staff are you going to pay? So that's one way. Some funders already tell you that for the implementation of this project, you are going to need staff and you are going to pay them. So in that area, non-profit making organizations can raise money for their staff. Furthermore, like I was saying earlier, non-profit making organization can raise money through paid consultancy services.
Okay.
There are NGOs that operate in my capacity. There are NGOs that operate and give advice to other NGOs, and then the other NGOs pay them for these services, or individuals pay them for these services. Okay. NGOs can print t-shirts and pay and sell to the public. Okay. NGOs can equally raise money through corporate partnership. Okay. You know, once we have a big company in Cameroon, there's something known as a corporate social responsibility. You can approach big companies and give them your project and ask them to sponsor your project as a matter of corporate social responsibility. Okay. Corporate social responsibility is like a company giving back to the society from from the abundance of their profit. So these are the different channels that non-profit making organizations can explore to make profit. But then all of these have to be done within sounded and well-established principle by the law, which I think we'll not have time to explain here.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you so much. Let's make this extremely practical. Suppose I am the founder of an organization. The organization receives money or generates revenue. At the same time, I have personal financial responsibilities. Where is the boundary between organizational money and the founder's personal money?
Wow. This is a bit difficult, Pastor, I must say, because there may be a temptation that let me just take small and nobody will know. But then, objectivity is the key. Organization's money belongs to the organization and personal money belongs to you. And maybe you are a project manager and you have written a project, and within that project there is salary for project manager. So the salary that is being paid to the project manager is your money and you can use it for whatever you want to do. But the money that is supposed to be used for organizational activity should be money for the organizational activity. This requires discipline, this requires objectivity and good faith for everything to go on well in this regard.
Wow, I see. Thank you so much for that clarity. I believe that those who are founders of organizations, they already know that sincerity is what they need to put at the forefront before continuing what they are doing. Now, this takes us to the number 8 question. Can bad financial management destroy a vision? We have established that an organization needs resources. But having resources is one thing, managing them is another thing. Can poor financial management destroy an organization, even when the organization has a genuinely good vision?
Of course.
How can they happen?
Organization has to plan for their finances. Every money in an organization must have a name. That is why if you write a project and send to a funder, the funders are always key to two very important things, the activities and the budget. Okay. And most organizations will ask you to name the budget, your unit cost per of the item, the total cost and everything. So the issue of financial management is very important in the success of organization. So probably this the issue of bad financial decision will come up if a bad project has been drafted. You get it. So yes, if a good project has been drafted, we are not going to be talking about a problem with management of finance. Or we want to talk about if a good project was drafted and then we have a problem of management of finance, it could be where somebody wants to embezzle the money of the organization. And in this situation now, there are criminal charges involved. There are people who have actually gone to prison because of poor financial management in the organization. Because in an organization, when money comes in from donation, from grants, the money is actually named and the activity is supposed to be carried out as it is listed.
Which means the money has a name.
The money has a name.
Okay. Now, is there any advice you can give to any organization as they are beginning from the very start? Which kind of discipline can they maintain so they can avoid this problem?
Yes, the advice I can give organization is for them to draft internal policies, internal rules for that organization. Maybe rules regarding anti-corruption, very important. Rules regarding financial transparency, rules regarding weekly financial reports, or even daily financial reports and monthly financial reports. If these rules are clear and they are adhered to, and things are followed up the way it is drafted in this document, then we are going to avoid this problem of financial mismatch.
Wow, this is interesting, Doctor. I think this takes us straight to leadership and governance. Okay. I would like to ask something. Let's move from money to leadership now. Many organizations begin with one person. That person has the vision. That person gathers the team. That person brings the resources. That person starts making the decisions. But eventually the organization becomes bigger than that individual. Why is governance important, especially when the founder is a person who started everything?
Governance is very important. Maybe we throw a little light on the meaning of governance.
Yes.
Professor Joe Mwakotafo of Ghana says, governance has to do with a legal and institutional foundation that supports transparency and accountability. Governance is very important because governance is the engine of every organization. I will take the time to say here that most people write projects, and some projects fail not because the projects are not good, but because the founder calculates that the governance behind this organization is not good. So if it is just one person who has the vision and is not able to communicate this vision to his team, it's going to fail. So one person cannot build an organization. It's true that the vision is carried out by one person, but the execution is very complex, and this vision must be communicated to the other team members so that they play their individual and collective role for the success of the organization.
My God, this is so interesting. This is so interesting. So if I've understood you very well, what you mean at this level is when one person has the idea, the implementation of the idea and the establishment of the idea cannot be done by that particular individual. It is a team. What if this person now fails to communicate the direct idea to the team and the team comes with different ideas? Will the mix of the idea produce something better or worse?
Well, it can produce something better, it can produce something worse. There's nobody who has monopoly of idea. Your idea may be very relevant, but by the time you listen or you share or you communicate your idea with somebody, he may give inputs that may rather refine your idea and take you beyond what you thought about. And we must be careful about something here. When I talk about communication, we are talking about strategic communication, because you can communicate your idea to somebody and he rather implements it without you. He implements it without you. That means he steals the idea. It is in this situation, like we have dealt with this at the level of IIPCC, where we do registration of ideas or proof of existence of an idea. So before you even share your idea with somebody, before you share it with your team, make sure that one, you trust your team, and two, that that idea has been secured, such that if somebody wants to implement that idea, you have proof that you are the author of that idea. Because to come up with an idea takes a lot of time.
That's true.
It takes a lot of
That's
energy.
true. That's true. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think this brings us to the next question, which is preventing abuse and mismanagement. Doctor, we have seen organizations collapse because of financial mismanagement, internal conflicts, and sometimes abuse of authority. What structures or mechanisms should an organization put in place from the beginning to prevent financial mismanagement, abuse of power, and internal conflicts?
Okay, I think we have dealt with that. They should draft their documents, and through the documents, the organization should function with the dictates of what is found within that document. And also, if I may add, specifically with this question that you have asked, organizations should work with external auditors, external and independent auditors who are going to say this is right, this is black and not blue, right? So if they bring in this discipline and then call in external experts that are going to help a lot to lift up the financial life of the organization, to empower and inform sustainability for that organization.
Wow, this is very much important. Thank you so much, Doctor. Now we go to the next question, which is authority and accountability. Let me put this one a little different. A founder may legitimately have significant authority because they created the organization. But the organization may also have members, employees, donors, partners, and beneficiaries. How should a leader balance authority with accountability?
That's a very tough question. And I want to deviate a bit to draw the attention of our viewers regarding something. Whenever somebody comes to me to create an association, I always give him the advantage and the disadvantage. Now I'm going to talk about a little disadvantage of an association. Once you create an association, you are the founder, you are the vision bearer, but you know that the other members can come up and vote you out of office.
My God.
It's very possible. So
that means you can lose your company or an organization in the hand of somebody who did not create that.
In the case of a company, of a SAR, if you create a SAR, it is yours and yours for life. And you can give it to another person, you can will it to another person. We were talking here about associations and NGOs.
Okay.
An association means that people come together to fulfill a particular need.
Okay.
And you need at least 7 people, including yourself. That means yourself with at least 6 members, right?
Yes.
So if these 6 members see that you as a leader, you're no longer fulfilling the objective of the association, they can say that
you can vote you out.
And they bring another person.
My God.
So we must take note of that.
Now, this is very important. Let me just ask this question before we move. At what point does leadership become unhealthy because there are no checks or balances?
Well, it depends on the internal policy of the organization. I may not really give a direct answer to that because the law empowers every organization to come up with their bylaws. So it's the bylaws of the organization that can determine whether leadership is good or leadership is bad. The law is there to guide organizations, to make sure that the organization do not do things that are out of the law. For instance, an organization cannot exist to sell human parts for prostitution, for drug abuse. The law just gives these general guidelines, but deeper issues regarding leadership is to be determined by the bylaws of the organization.
Wow, this is very, very much interesting. This takes us to our next question, which is on building credibility. Let's talk about credibility. If an organization wants to attract serious partners, donors, government institutions, or international organizations, people need to trust that organization. What makes an organization legally credible and trustworthy in the eyes of government, partners, donors, and the public?
Okay, I will take it one by one. That like credibility in the face of governments on one part, and credibility in the face of partners, donors, and other people.
Yes.
All right. An organization, a civil society organization, an NGO or an association becomes credible once there is a declaration received. So if an organization has been legally created and the NGO has signed that organizational receipt containing the objectives, the list of members, that organization is very credible in front of government.
Wow.
But then, donors, they have their own standard for measuring credibility. And in my experience as an NGO, as a civil society consultant, I would say an organization becomes credible when they are consistent with their activities, when they are consistent with their reports, when they are consistent with their finances. So I don't think an organization can become credible after 3 months of creation. Because, so if an organization wants to become credible, they should carry out activities in line with their objectives, document their reports, report these things, and these are things that increase the morale of the organization and increase trust in the mind of donors, in the mind of funders, in the mind of any other person who wants to give them money. I just want to take an analogy.
Yes.
If you have 10 million francs and you want to send somebody to keep it in the bank, and a 5-year-old child shows up,
I cannot give that child my money.
but if a 30-year-old child shows up,
there can be a little bit of trust.
So you see, this is the same thing that we are talking about here. So if an organization is so infant and we have not seen how they manage their things before, we cannot trust them. So it only becomes credible once there is that element of trust through consistent actions and reporting.
Wow, this is very, very important. I think if I've understood you well, what you are saying is for an organization to gain the trust of the government, the trust of the public, the organization needs consistency in terms of building, and they have to stay for some time so they can gain credibility and also the trust from the people that they are actually serious with what they are doing. Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you so much. I think we are actually going to the next question now from this conversation, which is, can an organization outlive the founder? Now, Doctor, I want us to talk beyond the founder. Imagine someone builds an organization today. 20 years later, that person is no longer leading it. Maybe they moved on. Maybe they are no longer physically present. maybe another generation has taken over. Can an organization survive its founder, and what must be intentionally built today to make that possible?
Okay, like I was saying earlier, an association is formed to fulfill a particular need. An association or an NGO is not founder centric. Okay. And like I told you, the other members can decide to remove the founder, the association continues. So even if the founder dies, even if the other members die, right, their successors can continue the objective of the association, can continue with the activities of the association. It is also good that when drafting the statute of the organization, we preview some of these things, maybe issues of succession, who succeed or something like that. The organization may have some different kinds of members, maybe founding members and subsequent members, such that once the founding members are no longer there, the subsequent members can take over the running of the organization, such that even if the founder is not there, the organization can still continue. But by default in Cameroon, companies are created for 99 years. 99 years. So they continue for 99 years and should be renewed after that 99 years. So the successor should make sure that they renew it after 99 years. But with the exception of entreprise, like I said, in the case of profit-making associations. So in the case of entreprise, once the founder dies, the business dies.
Assuming, doctor, the organization is created by somebody who is very much passionate about a project. Along the way, the person found something that they thought is better, but they have the thing, they step out of the organization to pursue that particular thing. Maybe after 20 years, the organization become big and become known even by the public. Can the person still come back to maintain their position in the organization since they were the one who founded the organization?
The 1990 law is very clear in this regard. Once you create an organization as a founder, you can be there for a maximum 5 years, renewable once. If it has been transformed to an NGO, you can be there for a maximum of 10 years, renewable once. So going by your analogy, the person has been away for 20 years. Well, unfortunately, he may not legally continue unless the time he was stepping out, he was reducing his mandate, he was putting his mandate to a halt. At that time, he may come back. But then, it has to be done through a General Assembly resolution where the other members of the association will have to agree that he comes back and take his position. So creating an association is not like you are creating a company which is your team. An association belongs to people. That's why the law says at least 7 people will come together to do that. So if the 6 other people see that you are no longer worthy of coming back, then it's bad news for you.
My God, this is serious. This is serious. Now, I would just like to find out from here before we move to the next question. My question now is, during the organizational structure or the planning stage of an organization, are there a formal way where people have shares? Maybe the founder leave without withdrawing their shares of the organization after maybe 20 years or 30 years. Can they come back and maybe their shares have grown the same way the organization is growing, or organization does not give out shares?
My organization does not give out shares. Shares is strictly for profit-making organizations, such as SAB or SA. But in the case of association, it is not for profit. It means that you should have it at the back of your mind that you are not going in to make profit. So if you are leaving, you leave just with your personal things. Nothing, you are not living with anything. There's nothing like bond, there's nothing like dividend, there's nothing as such. Because the association is to fulfill a need, and everything about the association should be tilted towards that.
This is where I think we begin from organization to legacy. There are organizations that exist for years but make very little measurable impact. And there are organizations that become institutions that influence generations. From your perspective, what separates an organization that simply exists from an institution that creates measurable, lasting impact in the society?
Well, from my perspective, I think this can be calculated based on the way the community perceives that organization. If you see an organization that is constantly on the field, an organization that constantly carries out activities and the citizens appreciate that, I think that's the organization that is really making progress. Although, in certain circumstances, that's not really the situation. There are some organizations that have great ideas, that have great projects, that have great vision, but they don't know exactly what to do in order to achieve this vision. So organization may have very brilliant ideas, may have very brilliant issues, but they simply lack that direction or how to channel it in order to produce the impact. That organization is not really failing in the strict sense of it. It's just a problem of direction that organization needs to make the impact that we need, that we are talking about. Okay. Also, some organizations may be carrying out activities, but then these activities that are carrying out is not really within the purview of what they have declared to the administration. In my sense, I don't think that those organizations are succeeding. Some organizations may carry out activities gotten from stolen money. In my way, I don't think those organizations are really succeeding. So we must be very objective and subjective and considerate before we look at the issue of impact or success for an organization.
Wow, this is very interesting, Doctor. We have covered a lot. Thank you so much. I think we are going to look at our last question. We have talked about vision, legacy, structure, organizations, money, sustainability, governance, accountability, credibility, impact, and legacy. So I want to bring everything together. Imagine a young person watching us right now. They believe they have a God-given vision. They want to build something that will impact their community and perhaps even influence their generations. But they don't know where to begin. If you had just one opportunity to advise that person, what will you tell them about transforming that vision into legally sound, financial, sustainable, and properly governed and lasting institution?
Well, it will depend on the institution that the person wants to create. If he wants to create an association or he wants to create a profit-making organization. If he wants to create an association, I will ask him to document his ideas, write it down, because I believe that there is a lot of power in writing. Once he writes it down, he should follow the provisions of the 1990 laws and he can be on his way to community impact. Wow. If he wants to create a profit-making organization, there is an eligibility requirement that is imposed by the Ohada Uniform Act. But if I should stress on one thing, one very important aspect that we may be missing out in Cameroon, in Central Africa, in other parts of Africa, is that once somebody wants to start something, always seek legal advice, because the law is the foundation of everything we do. Anything that we want to do on earth, if it's not reviewed by the law, it means it's not correct. So we must make sure that what you want to do is actually reviewed by the law. You may be building up something very beautiful, but the law says otherwise. And by the time you have wasted a lot of energy going ahead, you discover that the law is saying that you should either go left or go right. So please always align and make sure that there is a law that talks about whatever you want to do.
Wow. This is so much. Thank you so much, Doctor, for that wonderful explanation. I would just like to ask this last question, my personal question. So I want to ask that question and we are going to come to the end of this conversation. The question is simple, Doctor. About organizations, companies, and NGOs. Can a citizen of any nation create an organization in another nation? Is it possible?
Yes.
Or a company or something in another nation?
Yes, we have multinational companies now. For instance, MTN is a multinational company. We have Nigerians doing business in Cameroon.
That means I can leave from here and create a company in Nigeria?
Well, I will not exactly answer that, because law varies from country to country. I can only answer the question of a Nigerian company to create a company in Cameroon. Okay. I don't know what the Nigerian law says regarding this.
Okay. Wow, thank you so much, Doctor. Like you have said, it varies from country to country about the laws of that nation. Thank you so much for joining us at the Kingdom Wave Cafe. I believe this conversation has shown us something very important. Having a vision is only the beginning. A vision needs structure. A vision needs... Doctor, thank you so much for joining us at Kingdom Wave Cafe. I believe this conversation has shown us something very important. Having a vision is only the beginning. A vision needs structure. A vision needs resources. Resources need stewardship, leadership, and accountability. And if these things are properly developed, an idea can become an organization. An organization can become an institution. And an institution can create impact that extends beyond its founder. This is part of what we are building through Kingdom Wealth Academy. We don't want to teach people simply how to make money. We want to help people develop the knowledge, capacity, leadership, wisdom, and structures necessary to create sustainable value and lasting impact. Thank you for watching. I am Pastor Clovis, and this is Kingdom Wealth Academy. Thank you so much.